Okay.
So one thing that we're seeing right now is sellers are starting to get ready with us moving into the spring market. It's really exciting, and it usually happens about this time, right? We're getting into the end of February, weather's starting to get a little bit warmer potentially, and so people are now thinking, okay, I'm probably going to list my home maybe in April, May. And right now, Jen and I are going to kind of go over some of the strategies and some of the just like things to get started to think about. That way April and May don't slip by and you end up listing in July or August and giving yourself a tighter window. And so that's kind of the main points that we're going to be going over today.
Perfect. Perfect. I love it, Zach. Um, I have been like studying with Brian Buffini since I started my career. So this is my 20 plus year. This is my 21st year in real estate. And I've been doing Brian Buffini since I started. He's the number one, um, he's number one coaching company for real estate agents. So I just listened to his predictions and he's been talking about we're actually going to have a real life spring market. We have not. The last few years, we've been pretty stagnant because and the prices have stayed stagnant because we have so many buyers sidelined. We have like 25% of buyers are waiting for rates to come down. Now that rates are starting to come down, buyers are starting to come back in the market. And the prediction is now we have like this pent up demand and the spring is going to like explode. So it'll be really fun to see. I can tell you that right now I have a lot of sellers who are doing the smart thing and we are preparing. It takes a lot longer than anyone thinks. So we're in varying stages of getting their house ready to go on the market. The thing about being a listing agent that's really, really helpful for a buyer's agent as well is that I know what other people's offers are. And so when the market gets competitive, which they say it's going to again, then I know kind of where we need to negotiate. How much do we need to go higher? Can we just give them what they're asking? Do we still have a little bit of negotiation? But something that's interesting about the market is it's still considered a seller's market, even though it's crazy because don't you have agents who are still negotiating? Don't you still have like
Seeing multiple offers still on certain properties. Yep.
yeah, well, and it's crazy because as a buyer's agent, I've been able to negotiate some properties and we don't have competition and we're getting some, a price reduction or we're getting the seller to help us out with some closing costs. There's different things like that. But as a listing agent, I've also had multiple offers. So why is there such a difference between this listing and that listing? Even though, let's just back up just a minute and let's talk about the fact that what is the definition of a seller's market? It just means that there are more buyer demands. There's not enough houses for buyers out there. That is still true. Even though the buyers are sidelined, there are still, when these buyers come out to play, there are not going to be enough houses for the buyer's demand. Right now, what you're seeing is there is inventory, there are houses to look at, but buyers are being a little bit more picky. And so if the listing has not been prepared for sale, they're not getting multiple offers. And in fact, they're sitting on the market. They're not even being sold because if the seller hasn't been guided and told how to list and how to price right, then when a buyer does come, it's down the road and it's been a long time sitting and there's a lot of negotiation to be had. But for those smart listers who have associated with someone who really knows their stuff and is guiding them, there are starting to be multiple offers. So it's a very interesting thing that's happening right now.
Love it. Well, and something that I'm noticing, just because I'm actively looking on the market always, just to be like, okay, what's out there? What, are homes, going for in my area? What does it look like over here? And so the fun part that I always look at is like the first 7 days of the home being listed are like the most pivotal 7 days, right? Because if we're gonna get multiple offers, it's usually gonna come in that tight time period where you have multiple people being like, oh, this is finally the one that's popped up. It's turnkey. I'm ready to get it. And so that's the beautiful thing too when we talk about like pricing strategies is it's so important to price the home well in that first 7 day period because that's when it's kind of the newest and freshest thing on the market. This last year we actually had a unique one where one of our clients was listing a home out in Saratoga Springs, and when they listed it, I saw the listing hit and I was like, wow, that price seems really high for that specific home just because there was a little bit of TLC that was needed on it. And It's like, okay, let's see if that goes under contract. 30 days went by, it didn't go under contract. They ended up reducing that home like 3 or 4 times throughout a 6-month period until they finally got to where it probably actually should have been listed at originally and actually would have moved. But because they'd then been on the market for 100 plus days, everybody was like, well, what's wrong with this house? You know? And so that's where it's so important to use a professional, right? Somebody who really knows the nitty gritty of that and can sometimes have those hard conversations to say, hey, I know you think your house might be worth X, but if we put it at X, this is what potentially can happen. And so there's just a number of different things that go into pricing it correctly and in that sweet spot.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is where like my 20 plus years of experience comes into play because pricing, first of all, it's location, location, location. That is the number one rule about pricing is you better understand the location. Well, there are certain cities like Ogden, Harrison Boulevard East and Harrison Boulevard West, totally different prices, right? In the avenues in Salt Lake City, in the avenues, there are certain streets that divide. And if you're east of that, same with Sugar House, like in Salt Lake City, if you're east or if you're west, you have a different price point. So you could only be a few blocks away. And as a new agent, you would say, oh, the house is only a few blocks away. Like these seem to be similar properties, but you could be a whole lot of dollars and cents away from an actual appropriate value. So what you've got to understand is that location, 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 that is the number one rule about pricing a home to sell. The other thing is condition. And then obviously, like you've got to do your homework. So when you do your homework, you're looking at that local market, you're understanding, well, what homes have sold? What did they sell for? How close are they in the same size square footage? Are they the same model home? Are they, do they have the same amount of upgrades? All of those things. And then you want to see, well, how many days on market is it taking in that area for homes to get sold? And what is the current showing activity? When you put all of that together, it helps you to determine a price once. I mean, obviously I have to see the house, I have to know what we're dealing with. I also have to understand, is the seller wanting to sell it as is? Are they not willing to do anything? Or are they willing to listen to me? And do we have a strategy going in that we can improve the price point for listing as well?
Love it. And then what are you seeing as far as like, let's say I'm a seller right now, right? And I'm planning on listing maybe when my kids get out of school. Let's call it, end of May, start of June. Like, what are the things that I need to start doing now that would help so that way when you come and tour the house, you're like, okay, this is ready to get pictures within the next week or so. Like, what are the things that I could be thinking about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And actually, like, I so appreciate when people reach out to me when they're a few months away. It
Right.
takes so much longer than what they think. And so many times, like, I'll get there and they'll have done everything that they thought had to be done, and they'll be like, picture ready. And I'm like, whoa, I could have helped save you so much money here. Like, you changed cabinets, you changed countertop. I would have never suggested that. Like, I mean, of course, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't say that, but if they would have just called me early enough, I could have helped them because honestly, truly, staging is the most important piece of the puzzle. And I have my certifications. And what you need to know is that it doesn't cost a lot of money to do the basics. The most important piece for staging a home to be ready to sell, number one, declutterize, depersonalize. Depersonalize does not mean put away every family photo, make sure that there's nothing personal. What it means is that if you have all this Star Wars memorabilia and it's very amazing and distracting, a buyer will come in, it's very emotional. They will totally lose focus. They won't remember anything about the house except for how cool that Star Wars collection was. And I'll say, well, did we like that? They're like, oh, the Star Wars house. And I was like, well, yes, but did you like, how did you feel about the backyard? The back, did you remember like how many things of the Star, and all they can talk about is Star Wars, right? They can't stay focused on the house. So the goal is minimize the clutter, open up sight lines. You're moving some stuff around, you're mostly boxing up a lot of stuff. The energy helps, that flow of energy. Then once you can see the surface, the spaces, you want to make sure it's clean and neutralized. And so everything is ready to go. And then you would be surprised how many people, when I go to see a house, like blackout curtains are a big thing right now. They're very popular. But if they're all closed when I come to see the house, almost feels claustrophobic. It's hard to see the space, and the light, natural light, helps sell the space. So it's very important to have bright, open up your blinds. Even that's why a lot of people will turn on the lights for showings, because then the lights are already on, and the buyer's agent doesn't have to try to figure out where the light switch are to turn on those lights. Um, and then curb appeal, like when someone drives up, you want to have like fresh coat of paint on the front door instead of a peeling front door. Get up and it's all cobwebs in the porch and peeling front door. If you walk in and the house is beautiful, you already have this mindset of like, oh, this house needs so much love and attention, like it hasn't been cared for. And a couple cute new plants, or even just like a clean, weed free type of a entrance to the house. So there's some very, very easy and non-expensive ways to be prepared when you stage. One example, I love it. I have these cute clients, and they actually wanted to move. They had 8 children, so they wanted to move to their new house first, so that then we could prepare their home for the market. So we did. We got some professional staging, which was really fun, and we actually were able to push value hard enough that they got top value for the neighborhood. There was like, if you look at the comparables in the neighborhood, you're like, well, how did they get this much more? Well, the staging made all the difference in the world. The other thing is that they really had a big strike against them. It was right up against a major, like, it was Legacy Highway, and it's just like right behind the house. So we had massive amounts of showing. It took us a lot more showings to get our buyer, but we actually were able to sustain a higher price. And because it was so beautifully presented, like they were able to get more than what they normally would have. Like I feel like if it would have been vacant, we potentially could still even be on market if we would have tried to reach for the price that they really wanted to get, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, and going into kind of that strategic portion of timing is like super important. So, right, people start decluttering, they get their yards ready, they start fertilizing the lawn, everything like that, get the weeds out of there. And there's kind of a unique thing for Utah specifically, right? Because it really is typically driven by kids ending school and starting the new school year, where nobody wants to have their kid typically, going to or from a different school and being the new kid halfway through a semester or something like that. And so, I mean, as far as what I see, I think we're going to see a real uptick in May as far as people listing, expecting to sell it in June, and make that complete move for them and their family. So that'll be good. I mean, it always goes really heavy all the way through August, and even into September. I think we still see a really, really strong one, and then we typically see it, slow down once we get October, November, and into the winter season. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think that what I really want everyone to understand is that it's so funny. Where I work mostly by referral, and it's just people refer people to me, which I'm so grateful for. But people are actually really respectful and kind, and so they don't want to bother me, or they say, "Oh, you're so busy." But here's the thing: I need you to get a hold of me a few months in advance. Let's get together. Let's go through the house. Let's come up with a plan, so that you don't end up spending money where you don't have to, or not being prepared at your right timeline that you want. So in a perfect world, you're going to really want to get together maybe even a few months before you're ready to list, depending on just how much stuff you need to, just how much decluttering you need to do. And with your timeline, the other thing is that it's specific to location, because if you're in Harriman or Lehigh, or if you're in Farmington or Bountiful, like your days on market, depending on your specific neighborhood, are different. And also depending on how you want to sell the house. Like I have an estate sale that I'm working with, and they simply, their best effort is to just be able to declutter and clean. But from there, they're not able to do, it needs new carpet, it needs fresh paint. They're willing to take a sacrifice on the pricing, because they are not able to do all those things. So we need to come up with our strategy. We need to make sure that are we going to do professional staging? Are we going to do stage with your stuff? Are we not going to stage at all? And then we've got to look at the local data and figure out timelines and everything. And right now there's actually a lot of people that are ready for a move. There's so many people who bought in the hype where they made sacrifices. So it's interesting because statistically, it's like 76% of people who bought during like kind of that COVID era when things were crazy, crazy, and they paid like a huge premium. They paid like 50,000 over ask, but guess what? They settled. That wasn't even the house they really wanted. It wasn't even really the neighborhood they wanted. So now they're coming out of that and they're saying, this house just doesn't really suit us. I knew from the beginning I needed a third car garage, and we sacrificed it so we can get into a house. And it's been doable. We figured it out, but now I really, really want to get that house with the third car garage. Or we really knew we needed 5 bedrooms and we sacrificed for 3 and we're just bursting at the seams. So there's a lot of people that are ready to make a move from what they accepted to what they really want. So that means, Zach, they need to get in touch with you too, because numbers make a difference. They need to understand, okay, when I move my equity over, like what's my best strategy? Do I need to pay off some of these bills? Do I just, how do I move around my finances? And what's the difference between a payment when I'm locked in at this rate and then I'm going to get locked in at a new rate? So there's just so many fun things that are coming with the spring market, and we want you to be prepared. Like, call us. We're not too busy. We want to help you. We have a constant flow of clients coming and going. And so we would love for any of you out there that are looking for someone to help walk through the selling and buying process, reach out, give us a call. Let us have the opportunity to walk you through the buying and selling of your house.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for having me on today, Janet.
Yes, thank you so much, Zach. You're the best. Have a good
Yeah,
day.
you too. Have a good one.
Okay, see ya.